As I typed this, Mumford & Sons guitarist Winston Marshall was leaving the band. The reason stating in his article, posted on the site Medium, was a too familiar instance of a problem left unsolved. At the beginning of March, I tweeted to American journalist Andy Ingo, author of the New York Times bestseller Unmasked. Congratulations! Finally had the time to read your important book. You're a brave man. I believe this tweet to be as innocuous as the others. Over the course of 24 hours, it was trending with tens of thousands of angry retweets and comments. I failed to foresee that my comment on a book critical of the far left could be interpreted as approval of the equally abhorrent far right. The book in question had a much longer title that they're not very happy about. Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. The person in question, Andy Ingo, was a conservative journalist, and I'm putting this in quotes here, who mostly covers Antifa and BLM riots by questionably leaving out just enough important details and context to help along the narrative that Antifa is a terrorist organization. As if there's organization in Antifa. Don't make me laugh. Also, a journalist, in the same sense that he's just a provocateur from Canada's The Post-Millennial, causing shit here in the United States. Enough to get a milkshake thrown at him at a Proud Boys rally in late June of 2019, and that gained him a ton of sympathetic followers. But it's not about how good or bad Andy Ingo is. The major unsolved problem is cancel culture. People think it works, but it's not. Not the way people think it would do. We're still recovering from the cancellation of Scott Cawthorn, developer of Five Nights at Freddy's, who, according to OpenSecrets.org, an independent nonprofit that tracks the money coming in and out of U.S. politics, donated thousands of dollars to the likes of Mitch McConnell, Tommy Tuberville, Devin Nunes, and even Donald J. Trump himself, from as far back as 2019 when Trump attempted to get his re-election bid going that early. Everybody's surprised that a developer who started his career making Christian Bible games, living in the reddest regions of Texas, was a Republican donating to Republicans. He defended his choice, saying, "I supported President Trump because I felt he was the best man to fuel a strong economy and to stand up to America's enemies abroad, of which there are many. The many enemies being those who didn't have the fortune to stroke Trump's ego, to fuel an economy he left in shambles because of a pandemic that he left uncontrolled and unhindered because of an obsession with numbers and TV ratings. But that's just me, a dirty, dirty liberal sheeple. I would just continue to loathe FNAF for what it technically is to me. A jump scare simulator for 10-year-old kids to fawn over and for Markiplier to test his memory reflexes. I strive to not get this far. In the very Reddit post to Five Nights at Freddy's, where he defended his choice of supporting the future insurrection insider, he cites that his attacks got worse. There I was, trending on Twitter for being a homophobe, getting doxxed, with people threatening to come to my house. My wife is 6 weeks pregnant, and she spent last night in fear because of what was being said online. She has already been struggling with her pregnancy, so seeing her so afraid really scared me. All this because I exercised my right, and my duty, as an American citizen, to vote for and support the candidates who I felt could best run the country for everyone, and that's something I won't apologize for. While it might be for the wrong person after what we experienced over the past 4 years, and especially the 10 or so last months with the pandemic, Scott technically is right. He does have the right to vote for whoever and for whatever. It would be hypocritical for the left to dictate who you should vote for, especially since the right has an active voter suppression effort going underway. What do we people look like? Constantly angry people who actively seek out to wreck their lives over to feel better? Yes. And it's definitely not helping. I have examples. After Scott's post, Factorial founder Michael Kovarik wrote an article on a blog about coding from Robert C. Martin, who he deemed Uncle Bob, who also the social justice warrior community deemed an old tech sexist and a racist who decries against diversity in IT. People were forcing Kovarik to put a disclaimer about it. He wrote that he didn't care about it, saying, "These things are simply not relevant. If Stalin had a good write-up on programming, would linking that be dangerous? because some people might read it, start liking him, thus start liking communism and the inevitable mass murder that follows it. Is this how little we trust other individuals when it comes to access of information? I personally trust my readers to have the ability to create their own opinions instead of blindly follow whatever says the person they like. And the icing on the cake that made the swarm angry, take the cancel culture mentality and shove it up your ass. A Jeopardy contestant from Winthrop, Massachusetts was targeted over his hand gesture because the internet and the mainstream media fell for a 4chan prank further perpetrated by white supremacists. Instead of the benefit of the doubt, 580 former Jeopardy contestants took his notion of 3 wins on the show to be just cause to call him a racist and for him to be burned at the stake for the gesture. Sharpwing even blew up about this.
Fuck you. You know that gesture is commonly used. You know people do shit like that. You are not sticking on this hill!
Months ago, Dan Avedon of Game Grumps was targeted over one of his past relationships, which was framed to be illegal by a sour anti-Game Grumps Twitter profile. Dan was cleared of that, but the scars will still remain. Also from this year, an effort was made to shut out Steve Harvey when in 2010 he admits he was incapable of having girls as friends when he used to believe men couldn't have genuine relationships with women. This was done in the same time frame when Tucker Carlson was suggesting to his viewers to harass people who wear masks to ensure their safety as we attempt to leave the COVID-19 pandemic behind.
So the next time you see someone in a mask on the sidewalk or on the bike path, do not hesitate. Ask politely but firmly, would you please take off your mask? Your mask is making me uncomfortable. And we should keep doing it until wearing a mask outside is roughly as socially accepted as lighting a Marlboro in an elevator. Your response when you see children wearing masks as they play should be no different from your response to seeing someone beat a kid in Walmart. Call the police immediately. Contact Child Protective Services. Keep calling until someone arrives.
Guess which had more effort wasted? The Lincoln Project was targeted with an expose on its former founder, John Weaver, with even Politico prematurely writing that the super PAC was imploding on itself, as if it's karma for leaving the GOP and targeting Trump enough for voters to swing toward Biden, the traitorous bastards. The New York Times reported in January of 2020 of a 20-person complaint accusing Weaver of sexually harassing them through online messages. While Weaver admits to it, the accusations were occurring before his tenure at the Lincoln Project, and the organization was cleared of perpetuating it, according to an independent investigation that concluded just a while ago while I was writing the script. It didn't stop the bullshit and the wishful thinking of many MAGAs. Days after the public release of the Has Been Hotel pilot That's Entertainment in 2019, one guy went on a tirade, throwing accusations at VisiPop for doing pedophiliac and bestiality porn in relationships, according to her webcomic Zoophilia. And when she retweeted a take on the Scott Cawthorn ordeal, the attacks returned with doxing old addresses that she no longer lives at. Summer of 2020, while setting up for the Geico 500 at Talladega, a crew member for number 43 Bubba Wallace found a garage rope of his assigned garage tied up in the news from the previous season. It was relayed to NASCAR President Steve Phelps before Steve himself told Bubba, and the police and the FBI investigated it, clearing it of a hate crime. While the whole NASCAR and Bubba Bray decided to leave because it would have looked bad to just ban the Confederate rebel flag as a way for the sport to move forward, but having the news on a black driver's garage be okay. Social media tried to take him out, with even Donald Trump demanding an apology, even though...
Drivers, this is President Trump, and it was an honor to open the Daytona 500. Have a phenomenal day, have a great race, be safe, God bless you, we love you.
April 2018, a social media outcry trended over the Breakfast Club after a news article was published. Grease, Friends, Apu from The Simpsons, basically old media and products of the times. One did succeed as Apu was written off and was never mentioned again. March 2018, YouTube user Count Dankula was given to severe cancer treatment when he decided to teach his girlfriend's dog to do the Nazi salute and to react to the phrase, "Do you want to guess the Jews?" by getting arrested and sued under the Communications Act of 2003. Was it in poor taste? Maybe. Yeah. But was it worth getting arrested, sued, fined 800 British pounds, of which he didn't bother to pay, donated it to charity anyway, but the courts took it out of his bank accounts anyway by force? Not really. 2017, Real Time with Bill Maher, during an interview with Republican Senator Ben Sasse over a recent book called The Vanishing American Adult.
To Nebraska more. You're welcome. We'd love to have you work in the fields with us. Work in the field.
That's part of that. That's
Senator. I'm a house nigga. No, it's...
Cue the outrage and Ice Cube coming onto the show saying,
I knew you was gonna fuck up sooner or later. I know you heard it's in the lexicon, everybody talking, but that's our word now. That's our word now, and you can't have it back.
I could even go back as far as 2014, when Stephen Colbert was on his satirical show The Colbert Report, when the show's corporate account tweeted, I am willing to show Asian community I care by introducing the Ching Chong Ding Dong Foundation for Sensitivity to Orientals or whatever, made after his joke about the startup of the Washington Redskins Original Americans Foundation, before the team just gave up after his controversy with using Redskins in the name, as is an offensive term to indigenous people according to white girls on Tumblr named Stacy living in California on their parents' trust funds. The outburst was just as strong as it was against the now named Washington football team. Colbert had to remind the public that the Colbert on the show is a character that's essentially a well-intentioned, poorly informed, high-status idiot. Basically Bill O'Reilly, but on steroids. After the hashtag Cancel Colbert was top trending for 36 hours, and the mainstream media had content for 72 hours straight. And for the ultimate case of cancellation going not as intended. In the New Testament of the Holy Bible, you have Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who became such a spiritual leader that the Jewish elders were questioning his authority and him being so-called Son of God, and struck a deal with Judas Iscariot, one of his 12 disciples. Jesus foresaw this, held his Last Supper, and went to the garden in Gethsemane. When Judas led an angry mob, kissed him to show the crowd, this is the guy who calls himself the Son of God. And they arrested him, sentencing him to be crucified by the Roman Empire. He died on the cross, but came back 3 days later to appear to his followers, thus sparking a religion practiced by a whopping 31.2% of the total world population. Cancel culture does not work, and never in the way that many think it would work. While there are many who rebound or got stronger, like Colbert, Jesus, Vizzy Pop, many more don't have that luxury, and much more often than not have their lives taken away by rabid Twitter accounts and left with nothing. And as those rabid Twitter accounts move on to the next life to ruin, the cancelled will turn to whoever is going to fight to stop it and to restore their lives. As it stands now, that's, ironically, the current GOP stick, the evils of political correctness and cancer culture. Sounds appealing to the guy who's got, now, nothing to lose. And they'll be shut out and ignored, and left for more pressing issues like, what's the most offensive Halloween costume and which celebrity should be shunned into a public apology over? Or what oppressed minority should be horribly represented by Nancy Pelosi wearing something with her suit to show some kayfabbed solidarity? And as they are left unchecked and ignored, the Republicans will continue to collect, stir, and incite. All will flock to the party despite known scandals of underage sex and crazy conspiracies, and even blatant public financial corruption. And we all know how that turned out when the right was left to its own devices. This time, there won't be any opposition. As Mara once said when this shit was happening in 2017,
while you self-involved fools were policing the language at the Kids' Choice Awards, a madman talked his way into the White House.
And he wouldn't want to leave ever again, as evidence of the efforts to undo the 2020 elections. Instead, he'll just put his kids out of their position like it's a royal dynasty and stay in DC. He'll be untouchable. Again. While we're about to put Betty White in front of the firing squad just for one wrongly worded tweet. History will be doomed to repeat. Because eventually we would have wasted so much time and effort on such low-hanging fruit that the real racists and sexists and homophobes will come into power and never let go. And the people who put them there are the ones we took everything from, who will want to see all those suffer like they did. And it'll never end. So ask yourself, what would ruining this guy's life solve in the long run? Will it even the imbalance of rights of people of color and whites? Will it ever end the attempts of fascism and communism that you just don't want to happen here? Will it ever improve the quality of life in general, in the grand scheme of things? Or are you just not going to give a shit because nobody cares about you, So let's wreck this guy's life, feel good, and pray to God he doesn't join the opposition that will take away everything you hold dear in return. Bottoms up. This is going to be a long night.